Second episode of the day, and we are talking about the video of Pastor Tobi, the guy from Spark Nation, the guy who's been criticized thousands of times for using the church to enrich himself. He lives a very, very lavish lifestyle. Very recently, there was a video that came out of him speaking very authoritative over his choir.
Okay, when they are ready, thank you guys. Be seated, please. Livingston is amazing, but that song was boring me to death, so I had to come up, man. That's long. So, well, thanks, guys. We'll come back. We'll sing together in a minute. Just sleeping off.
Now that already tells you the tone of the man is completely off. But that's not the thing that I'm really going to address, but I'm going to bring it into the subject here. There is another video which he made. Remember, he's a pastor, for years. Now, there's a new video that he had done where he was saying that God has never done anything, when there was war, God never did anything for poor people, basically, the whole narrative of what he's trying to imply. So, because now he's rich, he can say those kind of things. But
get out of the country. We all were passionate when one man died in America. No justice. Nobody will speak for him. Not his church, not his pastor. Nobody's going to speak for him because he's poor. Okay, I accept all your oppression. I accept all your stuff that you do to me from all your organizations. I accept everything, but let me live in peace. But there's a generation that failed us, and because of their failure, we protest. Because of the failure of that generation. So we're not going to allow the British government to keep silence. Let the British government know that we're not just good for slavery. These retards. I'm tired of everything Christianity. I'm just tired. I'm tired. That's what my dad taught me all the way. We saw police take bribes. They said God will solve it. God didn't do jack. I don't want nobody calling me, telling me about how God would do anything. I don't want to hear it no more. I heard it as a child. I grew up in my dad's house, and God did not do nothing.
what is the one thing that you see in both these two videos? It's this thing here. Because a person doesn't have the right perception of God, they can't have the right perception of relationships. They don't care how it fits into another person's thing. So that's why he doesn't care to speak to his choir. Nice. You're boring. Who speaks like that? Me, I hear pastor speaking like that, I'm out. I remember at one point when I was in this other church where the pastor was a very musical person and he had a very, very good sing. The pastor could sing. If the voices were not really gelling very well, he would just take the mic, start singing with us. And didn't like the songs, he would just end up doing a sing-along. You are like, Ricky, we would sing with you. Yeah, I was also there. As we help, wherever there's a help needed, we help. Instead of bashing people. Instead of bashing people, even when you don't even know where a tone starts, whether it's a hey or ye, you don't know, but you would dare bash another person like that. But that tells you their perception of viewpoint with God. It messes up how they relate with everybody else. There is no pastor who is abusive, or there's no Christian, the ones who are sitting in the pews over there in the church. There isn't a Christian who is abusive, who doesn't have a deformed version of God in their head. Yeah, that's the only way you would be that type of a person. That's the only way you become an abusive person. Yeah, it's because in your head, you cannot see God's image in that other person. So his perspective here on God, let's start with the one of God, then we'll go to the one of man. With God, he says that God didn't do anything when things were what God couldn't do nothing. God did nothing. He even presses his words on that part. He's very offended. How could God not do anything? Connecting the dots, and it feels like it's making sense. Now let me show you why. This idea of why he's pointing at God's wrongs in his view. You see, if you want to see an example of this narrative, go and read the book of Job. The book of Job will give you an idea of how your perception of wrong or right from God, it's actually very skewed, childish. Yes, I think God is wrong on something. It's because you are childish. No, it's better to tell you now so that you don't continue thinking that. Because Job would give you an image of why God doesn't step in the wrong category. You see, in Job's situation, he goes through all these headaches. He goes through all these difficulties. He comes back, he has these questions towards God. And the questions are this. There was this wrong, there was this wrong, there was this wrong. God doesn't answer Job. As a matter of fact, God tells Job why he's incapable of understanding why. What he thinks God should have done doesn't make sense. It's foolishness because it doesn't look at the grand scheme of how God is in authority to all. How God is in power in all. His answer is, Job, when I created the world with all wisdom, were you there? So you are not capable of comprehending how the world was formed. You are not capable of comprehending how a star stays in its place. You are not capable of comprehending how the genetics that we have in our blood, how the blood continues to move in our body and the heart continues to beat, and how blood is given by the heart. And you know how this entire system that we have here, how this mechanism works. You were not there when I created that. So how then do you think you would be capable to understand why I did one thing or didn't do the other thing? Like this shows you that there are people out here who people continue to ascribe as Christian who are not. This thought line, the way he's thinking about it, I just wanted to break it down to say it goes from how he thinks about people to how he thinks about God to how in degree does he think about God. He doesn't see the free will aspect of which God gives people. He doesn't see the environment that God created for people in order for them to thrive in. And so he blames God. He doesn't see. So a person like that can't tell you the will of God to prosper or to... He can't tell you any of those things. The very same topic that he thinks he's championing to say God could have bettered this situation. You see, in that situation, he's not capable of doing that because why? He is in the wrong of what God has done previously to enable man to prosper or to have anything that furthers them. When God created an environment or a work environment around us, he created for us an environment for us to thrive, whether financially or otherwise. Okay? God, by creating this environment, he created, and he creates gold under the earth. He creates all these valuable materials. He gives us land. He gives us the capability of obtaining land. And when we have land, we can create plants. We can go and farm plants that we are able to sell back into the economy, and that then in its circulation then enriches the individual. You see, God created the environment, but because he avoids that, and that is one of the things that Africa has failed in, the dominion mandate, actually it should be focused on that subject to say, God gave them dominion over these things. And so use these things in order to put yourself in the best position. But he wants to blame God for people not doing their part. Okay? God does his divine work to bring you in contact with someone, and then you disregard that person. That person moves away from you. Now you are not capable to get that information that you would have learned or a contact that you would have had. That's the person. That's on the person. But because he doesn't see properly what God has done, he discredits what God has done because of what man is not doing. His idea of how the relationship between God and man is broken. So how does he preach prosperity gospel? Do you see where the problem comes in? Even if it's like, say for instance, if you are a person who's in support of prosperity gospel, okay? And you see a person like this, and you might be perceiving, no, you know what? But this prosperity gospel thing might have its ground in biblically, right? Now, do you see what must be acknowledged? Not that it's biblical, don't get that wrong. Okay? If you were to acknowledge God prospering people as God's plan, you would have to see what God has done and what man must do. The idea that God has done something, it means that you then are then to apply yourself to this economy. You are then to apply yourself to the marketplace. And then by so doing, you might be rich, you might not. But the Bible does warn those that chase that. They chase much sorrows for themselves. They stress to be held that side. But because you are thinking that God hasn't done, it tells you why you preach prosperity. Whereas God has already done something that actually tells you the position, the proper position of prosperity gospel, right? So God has created an environment that allows us to engage the economy, to engage in the economy, whichever way you want to put it. And by so, therefore, it's our responsibility to then acknowledge our environment. Where are we? I'm Ricky. I might not be sending CVs out because, hey, Koskolong, I was a nobody, right? But that doesn't mean I cannot engage the economy. I can. How? I have a skill. I have a passion in one area, and I'm able to draw this analysis in all these places. What's my gifting, therefore? Sit down, make these videos. And how do these videos then enable me to engage with the economy? There are ads that play. And when those ads that play, I'm literally advertising. Okay? You in the afternoon when you have your lunch, you might decide to go have McDonald's. You might decide to have KFC because of the ad. It might remind you of a certain thing that you once ate or something like that. I'm undercompensated, but hey, you know what? God creates an environment. God has put me in an environment to involve my skills or to engage my skills, whether it be from a camera perspective, from an editing perspective, my interest in theology, my interest in all these subjects and all these things. And as I engage in this space, adverts are being able to, they play adverts in my space and I engage with the economy. But because this pastor doesn't have the proper perspective of what God has done, he thinks, no, God must still do. God must do. So that tells you the kind of mindset that people who teach theology, who teach materialism theology, I forgot what they call it, prosperity gospel, which is not gospel at all. Why they teach that? Because they don't see that God has already done something. It's now up to the humans to engage this everyday thing. I thought that was a very interesting thought. I wanted to break it down here all the way from using this pastor right here. And I thought it was a perfect example, and I hope this video finds you well. So that is share the show with the daily Christian commentary videos. And I will see you on a later on a video. Yeah, be blessed and have a good one.